It's Mark and Pete.
Hello and welcome to the show. More colourful conversations with Mark and Pete. This is the show dedicated to religion, politics and business. Now each week, clergyman Pete and businessman Mark debate an important topic. This week, we debate fate or fortune. Now, we have a crystal ball in front of us here with clergyman Pete and businessman Mark. Now, some people would say that it's impossible to determine our individual fates. Other people will say, no, it's very easy. Our whole lives are mapped out. That is God's plan. Well, with me today is clergyman Pete. So, clergyman Pete, would I be right in saying that it is your destiny to be Archbishop of Canterbury?
Well, of course you would be right in saying that, but that's not the same as saying that it has to happen. If you are destined to do something, it still might not happen, you see. It could be that I'm not capable of fulfilling that role. Perhaps
I think
just not being of a certain gravitas. On the other hand, it may be that I'm perfectly fitted and everything will fall into place. I'll leave that for you, Mark, and the gentle listener. I think there were two listeners this week, that you gentle listeners to decide on. And, this is an interesting topic because when you look at certain instances, say, I've got a dramatic instance I've got an account of in front of me. When you look at certain instances, you can interpret them either according to you're thinking, oh, there's a destiny, there's God's plan, or, oh, that's remarkable, extraordinary. Look, it went against what I expected. Now, here, this particular event that I'm going to read out to you happened at the destruction of the Twin Towers on the 11th of September 2001.
Okay.
And and as we're broadcasting this, the anniversary of that is not that long ago. So it's interesting, to talk about that particular event, even though it's so tragic. But that's why this event is of interest. And we're talking about someone who survived. Now, this particular man, called Pascal Buzzelli, he refers to himself as the world's luckiest man. So that's his view on what happened. He's now 43, and this is extremely reliable, English listeners, you'll get this, because it's reported by the Sun newspaper. So we know that every aspect is true. He was in a lift in the North Tower when the first plane hit it between the 93rd and 99th floors. The lift stopped on the 44th floor. He saw scenes of panic, so he went up to the 64th floor, which is where his office was. He went up, went into his office and phoned his wife. And he said to her, turn on the TV. So she turned on the TV and she saw the plane hitting the building and assumed that was it.
Yes.
He began to make his escape, and they managed to get down to the 22nd floor as the building began to collapse. And then he felt himself being lifted up like he was surfing, and he ended up being lifted up onto the surface of the building. He surfed the concrete down to the ground, and he said it was the feeling of surfing down, just riding the air and getting buffeted around as if I was on a roller coaster. And he was found on a ledge, despite falling 15 floors, and he just had a broken leg and a crushed ankle, which you can live with and you can recover from. And yet, his interpretation was he had a bit of a sense of guilt and pretended it didn't happen. That's how he initially responded. Now, You can interpret this two ways. How is it that he survived? Is it because God has a special plan for him and a meaning for his life? Or was the inevitable thing that he should have died and he's just lucky? It depends on how you interpret it.
Yes, well, I think to that point, some people will say, well, our lives are mapped out, effectively from the moment we're born to the moment we die. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is, of course, in that particular case, of course, the fortune was certainly something that was prevalent there. I mean, he was extremely lucky to even stand a chance of surviving.
Well, just before you go,
okay, he had a broken leg or an ankle.
Yeah.
I mean, that was bad, but.
But before you go on, the thing is that he was also extremely unlucky in that he was in there. I mean, he was unlucky that it happened to him in the first place.
On the other side, yes. I'm going to take it that he was extremely lucky in the sense that, perhaps that in this particular case, with all those that did die, I mean, he was one of the few that actually survived. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, it comes back to the bigger picture, of course, which is are our lives actually mapped out for us? I mean, is it inevitable that you are going to be a clergyman? I was going to be a businessman. Mm. Is that something that perhaps we have a certain amount of flexibility? Or is it that really, when you look at your choices that you're given, that really you make that decision based upon what God tells you to do? Do you believe that perhaps it was really more of God's calling in this particular case that you were a clergyman? Or really that it was just a bit of luck? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that God was calling me to take this particular route in life. But I didn't think any differently when I was doing other things. I did pray and try and come to what I thought, what God wanted me to do when I was, acting in schools, which was something I did years ago, doing a project on theatre and education. It didn't change. And if you become a businessman, it can be because God calls you. So it's not to do with a particular profession. But that doesn't make it inevitable because of one obvious thing. God can call you, but you don't have to listen.
Well, I have a slight disagreement here because I think that there is an inevitability in everything. And I'm just going to give you my view in a slightly whimsical little poem.
In a poem?
Yes, we do this each week.
Yeah,
a little poem. And we will debate at the end of it whether you believe that there is a sense of inevitability in life.
I tell you what is inevitable. I'll tell you what, that you're going to do a poem.
It's inevitable. I'm going to say it. Something to take away. Oh Lord, my life is like a pizza. Yes, and sometimes it's a little flat. But with every slice of fortune, I get a bit too fat. My jokes are very cheesy, topped with a tantalizing twist, so I deliver tasty anecdotes that no one can resist. My business ideas are half-baked, where the delivery is far too slow. And from out of the frying pan, I burn up all my dough. At Christmas, I fondly look out, just as on the feast of Stephen, hoping that the fine festive feast is deep and crisp and even. If the ingredients for great success is based upon luck as it comes, then I've been left with little option but to pick up all the crumbs. Now God has given his final order, judging those atheists to orthodox. Like a pizza whose fate is laid to rest, I'll be sent off in a box. So it's inevitable. Yes. But whatever we do, there is one ending, and that is, like the dear old pizza, we're going to be sent off in crumbs, in a box, no matter whether you like it or not. So my feeling on this matter is that no matter what we do, God has a plan for us, and that is ultimately to judge us. We will die, and no matter what we try and do about it, there is an inevitability. So surely my theory is more real, isn't it?
Well, I think it's more nuanced than that. I think that, for example, you could say that God sometimes gets things wrong. He's more likely he's going to get them more right than anyone else. But things that he doesn't know, he knows everything that can be known and knows the probabilities of what's going to happen in the future. So he would know the best course of action. But still, that can end up with the wrong outcome, like something unpredictable, like people. God can appoint a person, but this person can turn against God. When Paul appointed Saul, the first king of Israel, he had to get rid of him and appoint David, who's the one that we all know as the great king to look back to today. The reference I've got here is 1 Samuel 15, verses 10 and 11. Then the word of the Lord came to Samuel, who was the prophet, relaying God's words, saying, I regret that I have made Saul king, for he has turned back from following me and has not carried out my commands. Now, I regret? He is sorry that he did it. He made a mistake. This guy
Yes, clearly.
turned against it. Now, clearly also Saul's making a big mistake. If you turn against God, well, things aren't going to turn out well. But God made the best call on the information available, but still things didn't turn out as well. But trusting in God means that in the end, he wins. This is how I would put it. Look, we all actually think like this. What it is God is all-powerful. Therefore, he can fix everything, as in make it static and deterministic. Everything is absolutely has to fit to his plan. But he doesn't do that because, well, we know that because that's not what the world's like. He doesn't do that because that's not the best way to do things. That's part of another discussion. Just to show you that this is the way we all think, really, if you were to now think, well, I'm going to get on a plane and fly to New York because I'm interested in looking at the history of the 9/11 attacks, whatever it is. Right, you go there and you'll go to the airport. You're going to plan to go. You choose the time of the airline going. You choose the safest airline, maybe. You choose what you're going to take with you, how long you're going to stay, who you're going to meet when you're there. But one thing you assume is that New York will be there. You even assume that the airport is going to be there. Yeah. You have perhaps less confidence that the airplane is actually going to get you there, but you're pretty confident. So there's levels of confidence on whether things are going to happen. It's more nuanced, as I say. But I don't think that everything is mapped out. There are certain things that we can just choose. Certain things that God has put in place, that's going to happen, like judgment, as you say. But other things,
well, I would agree.
The path that you take varies depending on your decisions. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I do agree with the point that you've made, which is about judgment. I know ultimately we're all judged at the end of the day, but in business, for example, that's very true. If your judgment is flawed, whether it's because you've just simply got the wrong business idea or that maybe you make a bad choice or maybe even possibly some people in your executive team make a bad choice. That obviously has serious implications. So I do agree that there is a bandwidth, essentially, that we as individuals clearly need to follow the right path. But it is true that that we do have a certain amount of options to make choices. Now, you already gave some examples of that, whether you're made to be a king, whether you're made to be an executive, whether you're made to be a clergyman or anything else, you make decisions. But I still maintain that either way, there is, if you like, a route plan. And how you get to those individual milestones is possibly up to you. But I think it's God's plan that you have a purpose in life. Now, we have talked about this in other shows before about, what is our purpose in life. Now, obviously, it's to do good and it's to follow Jesus and it's to follow faith and to do good things in the world. But nevertheless, I still maintain that I think that each individual plays a part. And I think that whether we call that mapping out our lives, it's different. That's maybe semantics. But I think that just simply say it's a free-for-all and God will judge us accordingly, I'm not so sure about that.
No, well, you see, that's not, of course, what I'm saying. As you know, it's not that it's a free-for-all, that certain things are fixed and that God is in overall control. And if God says something's going to happen, it will happen. But the reason that it will happen is because God is more intelligent, more powerful than anyone else, so he makes it happen. It's not that it's set, that somehow all of time and space are set and you can only follow a certain plan. It's that certain things happen because God makes them happen. And this is it's subtly different because what it means is that the decisions you make are real decisions. So once you have that point of view, it gives life that extra pep. You know that what you do matters and the decisions you make matters. That the future is not fixed in terms of the path that you're going to take through life. You could go the easy route, you can go the hard route. You are always going to end up at judgment, but just remember too that the path that you take means that the judgment will be different when you get to the end of your life.
Yes. Well, no, that's a good point. Well, I know one thing, which is the fate of the show, and that is we must come to an end. But fortunately, and that is the fortunate part, and fortune favors the brave. Yes, listeners, why not drop us a line and let us know your thoughts? Do you think that our whole destiny is mapped out by God, or maybe you have total control? Let us know. Drop us a line on markandpete.com, and we'll read out your thoughts next time.